Hi, and welcome to today's episode of Gardenside Chats. I'm not Carrie, I'm Billy, and today I'm standing in to talk about raising baby chicks. So it's really more of a coopside chat today. So if you're interested in raising chickens in your backyard, I think a lot of people are right now. One of the ways is to start by getting baby chicks. You can get full-grown chickens, but those are sort of harder to come by. So really, I think a good way to go about it is by getting day-old chicks. So if you live in Columbia, you're allowed to have chickens, but there's some rules. You can have up to 6 hens at your home. So that means no roosters, just hens. All you need is hens to lay eggs. Roosters are not a part of that. You can read all the rules that the city has at como.gov you find the animal control website, and it's on there. So, yeah, where do you get these baby chicks from? You get these little fluffy bundles of joy, really from your local feed store. We got ours about a month ago from Born Feed, but there's also places like Orscheln, or you can order it directly from the hatchery. Although I always prefer to get it from the local feed store. I don't know that unless you have a really specific variety that you want, I think getting it from the feed store is really the best way to go, because when you're there you can get the feed and all the other things you need as well. So they have different chick days, so just make sure to check in to know when baby chicks are available. And I know recently, with everybody cooped up at home, that there has been a higher demand for these baby chicks. So a lot of times recently you sort of need to get there on the day that the baby chicks are delivered. They come in the mail. So how do you start out? You get these baby chicks. They're just these little fluffy, fuzzy things, and you need to take care of them. Best way to start out is with like a Rubbermaid container, or we did ours in a fish tank. Maybe you saw some of CCOA's live streams a few weeks back. We were showing off our baby chicks in the fish tank. But you need a safe space where they can be, that is safe from predators and climate controlled and things like that. So you probably have something like this. I know some people put them in their bathtub. Baby chicks poop a lot, so I don't know if you really want that in your bathtub, but it's been done before. But any really container, or if you have a basement, you could make something for them to be in, a baby pool, or some kind of trough or something. You can start these baby chicks in. What they need when they're that small is really food, water, and warmth. So if they don't have all their feathers yet, so they get cold easily. So getting a heat lamp, or even just like a 100-watt bulb, it's a little better if you get a heat lamp or a red bulb, because that red light is a little better for chickens. It's less intense for them. We've got one here in our coop that we'll show you in a second. They also need food and water. I'll show you a water. You can pick up any water. There's different styles that you can get at the feed store, but something like this is good. You need to make sure that water is changed and refilled frequently because chickens can be kind of dirty. They'll scratch up their bedding and stuff like that in there, and so you just want to make sure that you've got a chicken water. You know, a pan of water is going to get really dirty. So one of these waters like this from the feed store is really what you want. And let me grab the feeder. Got your feeder. I don't know if you saw, we had it hanging in the coop in there. You can set it down too, but it allows you to so you can load up the feeder with some of this commercially available feed. When they're babies, it's really best to get them this feed. I don't know if you can see. I'll come up here, but these are like little crumbles, which is really easy for the baby chicks to eat. And so we bought a bag of this feed about a month ago. We've been feeding our baby chicks, and we haven't even used half of it. So when they're this small, they're really not eating that much, but obviously as they grow and get bigger, they will they'll be eating a lot more feed. So we'll get into other things you can feed them, like table scraps and rotten vegetables and stuff from the garden. But when they're babies, it's really best to just get them that commercial feed. It's easy for them to eat. It's got the balanced nutrition they need. There's two types of that commercial feed you can get. There's the flock raiser, which is really for building meat. It's used in meat birds, and it's also used in these egg layer birds before they start laying eggs. In a few months, maybe in another 4 months, we'll switch them over to layer mix, which has different nutrition in it to support their egg laying. So, but right now, we're just really worried about getting them to grow up big and strong, so we're using the flock raiser. You can see in our coop here, and we've moved them out of the tank, but this was the same. We use these pine shavings as a bedding. You can use a number of things as the bedding. You could use sawdust, or you could maybe use some like ripped up newspaper or leaves. But you can buy this bale of pine shavings from the feed store, and it has a nice smell. It's pine, and it works really well to have as the bedding when you're raising your baby chicks. So you've got your Rubbermaid tub or your kiddie pool or whatever it is. You need to make sure that the chickens in there are protected. So there needs to be, if it's in your house, you maybe need to protect it from your pets. If it's outdoors, you need to protect it from the wildlife. So there needs to be some sort of lid. But something else you need to worry about too is ventilation. So you've got these live animals in here, you've got water in there and food and this pine shaving, so it can get dusty, it can get humid, and that can be bad for the chicken's respiratory system. So the space does, if you have a lid, it does also need to be ventilated so that they can stay healthy. We're thinking of this as, these are their nursery days. We've got them in their little crib, and we're keeping them safe and keeping them healthy. So like I mentioned with the light, before they grow their feathers out, they can get cold. They don't have a lot of body heat when they're small. They just fit in your hand. They're little things, and so having that having that heat lamp in there is really important. Chickens, when they're really young, you kind of need to have them around 70 or 80 degrees. So make sure that you've got a lamp in there, and you can just keep an eye on them. If they're really huddled under the lamp, then it's not warm enough in there. If they're all just kind of cuddled, it's too cold. If they're like as far away from the lamp as possible, then it's too hot in there for them. If they're just kind of spread out throughout your container, it's probably just about right. And so, you know, right now we're having some really cold nights and we've had some really warm days, and so you really just need to keep an eye on that temperature if you're getting baby chicks and raising them. So what you really got to worry about daily with your baby chicks, make sure they have food, make sure they have clean water. You really probably want to clean out their water a couple times a day. Depending on how you have it set up, I like to have it set up a little bit higher than the bedding, so that it's harder for them to kick the litter in, because their water can get dirty really fast, especially when they're babies. They want to jump in the water, they want to play in it. So you want to try to keep the water clean. You want to try to keep their bedding clean. Add new pine shavings or something periodically, because you know they're gonna poop in it. And make sure you're regulating that temperature every day. So when you've got these babies, you need to check on them a few times a day, just to make sure the temperature's right, they've got clean food and water and bedding. So our chickens here are about 4 weeks old, and recently, earlier this week, or last week I guess, we moved them into the big coop. So we took them out of the fish tank and we've put them in the coop that they will live in. Something you want to, and today I'm really just talking about baby chicks. We'll talk about caring for adult chickens in a future episode. But if you have a coop in your yard, you want to think about where you're putting it. You kind of want a good mix of shade and sun. In addition to your sort of contained inside part of your coop, you want a run, which is an outside area where they can run around. Both your coop and your run need to be critter proof. So, you know, if it's in sort of a building like this, that means that it's tight all around. There's not any cracks where a fox or a possum could get in. And for your run, you know, you want to have fencing around it. You might consider burying some of the fencing into the ground a little bit to prevent critters that dig, like maybe a fox. And even you may want to consider having overhead fencing to prevent hawks from swooping down. We've definitely had hawks come and kill and grab our chickens before. Not an issue for everyone or in all locations, but just something to consider if you've got hawks around. So make sure your coop and your run are critter proof. For your coop itself, just like in your little tub, you want to make sure you have ventilation. If you've got, you know, if the chickens are inside, you need a way for that moisture and for that dust to get out and for some fresh air to circulate through. At the same time, you don't want it to be really drafty and breezy, because on cold nights that can be hard for your chickens, and you want to have you know, right now we have our heat lamp in here. We don't have it on right now, but in the evenings when it's been kind of chilly, we've been turning it on. So we're sort of weaning them off the heat light because, you know, they've pretty much got their feathers now, but they're really not big animals. They don't hold too much heat. Our coop too has a couple of windows, so you want to let in the natural light. It helps you to see when you're in there, but it is also nice for the birds to have some natural light when they're in their coop. So just a couple days ago, we started letting our chickens out into the run. So they were in the fish tank for about 3 weeks. They've been in this coop here for maybe about a week. And a couple days ago, we finally let them out into the run. This is really the first time that they've been outside. So we're kind of letting them explore a little bit during the day, but they still feel safest inside in the bedding with the food and water. And so I think maybe we can just take a look inside of the coop here. I'll show you our heat light. I'll show you how we have the food and water set up. We have some roosts in there that they can jump up on. And we have a little a trap door for them to exit into the coop. So this is something every day when we take care of the chickens. You know, at this point it sort of gets to a twice a day that we really need to come out here. We come out in the morning to make sure that they have food and water, and we open their little trap door so that they can go into the run. And then in the evening, around dinner time, around when it's getting dark, we bring the chickens inside, we close and lock their trap door, and again we make sure that they have food and water. And at night, if it's going to be cold that evening, I'll turn the heat lamp on at that time. So let's kind of check out the inside of the coop. So right there you can see that's our feeder hanging from the thing there. It's got a nice hook on there, so it's easy to here, I'll come in. We've got a hook so that it's pretty easy for us to grab, unhook, and fill up with feed when we need to. Right here you can see our waterer. You can kind of see we've got it up on a there's like up on a couple steps here. You know, similarly, you could really just like we've got some of these bricks right here. You could similarly just set it up on some bricks or some little pieces of wood. As the chickens get taller, it won't need to be as close to the ground, so that's something to consider. But when they're really small, you need it close to the ground, but it makes it really easy for them to kick the dirt in, and it gets the water really dirty. So we kind of have it up on here on this platform. It took them a little bit to kind of figure out where it was and what was going on. Okay. And so, but they figured it out. So I'll just give you an example of how to clean out the water. I'll take this outside. Something you want to, when you're dealing with the water, whether it's in your little tub or whether it's in your coop, you want to try as much as possible not to spill it in there, just because it can, you know, make mold grow, or it can just be kind of nasty. So the water, I don't know if you can see, but there's some stuff floating in here, and I'm just gonna take it and dump it out. Some new water will come in. We'll swish it around, and how this fills up is you turn it upside down, you unscrew it, and then you can just fill it up with your garden hose or something like that. So it's really easy to do. At this point, they're not really drinking more than one of these a day, but we do fill it up every day. Especially on a warm day, you don't want them to run out of water. So we've cleaned that out. There's some fresh water in the tray there for them. Let me show you the heat lamp. don't know if you can see that, but it's just this red light bulb. It's probably about a 100-watt bulb, but when you can get all this stuff at the feed store when you're there, if you don't already have something like that. You know, I've got some actually other feeders and waters here. Just show you. These kind of hook up to mason jars, so they're kind of cute. But and these may be more appropriate for when you've got your baby chicks in their Rubbermaid or the baby pool or whatever it is. These probably won't be, the water or maybe the feeder would be, but these probably won't be adequate if you've got 6 chickens when they grow up. You know, this much water won't be enough every day unless you have a couple of them. But you can see this type of feeder, it keeps the chickens from getting in there and scratching it out, but it still kind of feeds it up. And this water is more or less the same setup as that plastic one we had. They also have these double-walled waterers, which can hold a lot more. They get a lot bigger. They're made out of galvanized steel, and if you have more chickens, those can be pretty nice too. And if you don't want plastic, you know, they're likely to last a little bit longer. And so I don't know if you can. I want to show you our door flap, and we can let the chickens out. So if you look, I've just got this little eye hook. So at nighttime, we lock them in there. They can't get out. Other critters can't get in. But during the day, just open it up, and we can let them out. Something that you're going to need to be comfortable with is handling your chickens. When you have chickens, you know, they might get away from you. They might run away. But if you're afraid that they're going to peck you or scratch you, well, you know, they might. But honestly, a lot of people have these sort of horror stories of being a kid and being pecked by a chicken and it scarred them for life. A lot of times that was maybe a rooster. Roosters can be a little meaner. Or it's just because you were a little kid. And these things really, they peck because they're curious. And they scratch because it's their instinct is to look for food. It's not really something that you should really need to worry about. So you should be comfortable picking your chickens up. Inevitably, they're going to get out. You're going to have to chase them. You'll look like an idiot, and you know, but you need to be comfortable picking them up. There's a couple ways. When you're doing it, you want to make sure you have your hands over their wings. When they flap their wings is when you start to lose control over them. So like if I sort of let go, it's going to start flapping. Okay, not going to start. Okay. And that's when they'll get away from you. Another way you can pick them up is by their feet. And you kind of hang them upside down. The blood rushes to their head. They calm down. This method is good if you have to pick up lots of chickens at once. If you've got 6 chickens that are out and you're chasing them by yourself, you can hold multiple chickens in one hand by holding them upside down like that. But always be gentle. You know, they're birds. They're delicate little things. So
She's come back.
She's come back. Well, I was going to try to get them to go back outside. It's such a nice day. Come on, girls. Come on. Here we go. Oh. There we go. And so now they're outside. The door's open, but they do have access to come back in the coop if they want to. So when they get thirsty or hungry, they can come in here. But they're also outside. They're scratching around in the dirt. I think I put a rotten apple out there that they've been pecking at. When they grow up and get bigger, you can bring them more of your table scraps, or they've been eating lots of worms. Our boys have been bringing them worms. And so just like with a baby, as they grow up, they can eat sort of more complex foods. But for right now, we're really just keeping them on this feed. They'll be full grown in another 4 or 5 months, and at that point is when we'll switch their feed over to layer feed, and we'll be bringing them more food scraps out, weeds from the garden. They love to eat. They love to eat greens and grass and clover and things like that. So we'll be doing that. So I think that's it for today, talking about raising baby chicks. We'll have another episode about raising adult hens. We'll go over to our urban farm where we have some adult hens. So remember, food, water, heat, keep them safe from the critters, and enjoy. They're really fun to watch, really fun to hang out with. Always wash your hands afterwards, or they can be kind of dirty. But they're a great addition to your backyard, and real fun. So thank you for joining me today. Remember to like, plant, and subscribe, and have a beautiful day.